One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I wanted to play this, but we decided we shouldn't play it. We don't want anybody to have any sort of a way to get it down. The episode of you when you're on The View, when you were running for president.
Right.
Donald Trump is a billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a television star. But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to.
You got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
In today's video, Joe Rogan is diving deep into the shifting political stances of The View and its iconic hosts, particularly Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, calling out what he sees as blatant hypocrisy in their ever-evolving relationship with Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
We're so happy to have you. Whenever you're on with us, we're very happy.
We love it. They're talking about you in such a favorable light. The audience was cheering, and then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
Joe Biden knows how to do this. Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
Rogan isn't holding back as he draws a sharp contrast between the way the hosts of The View once embraced Trump and how they now vehemently oppose him. It's a flip-flop that's caught his attention, and he's questioning whether it's really about principle or simply reacting to changing media and political climates. Rogan starts by pointing out a time when The View had a much more welcoming attitude toward Donald Trump. In the early 2000s, the hosts celebrated Trump, introducing him as a friend and even encouraging his presidential ambitions. They asked him questions about his plans for the future, and at times, their admiration seemed genuine. But fast forward to the present day, and Trump has become a lightning rod for controversy, with Whoopi and Joy leading the charge and labeling him a divisive figure who threatens the fabric of American democracy.
You know who made a campaign stop on the Joe Rogan podcast Friday night? And with all the issues Americans are going to be voting on, you know where they started the interview? Take a look.
It was the episode of you when you were on The View, and I think it was 2015 or 2006, like when you were running for president.
Right.
Okay, let's stop there. There's a lot of fake news coming up, so we're going to clear some of it up as it happens. He was actually, in that clip, is 2011, 4 years before he announced he was running, okay? That's the first thing they got wrong.
Rogan isn't convinced that this change is because of any significant shift in Trump's values or behavior. Instead, he argues that it reflects the political and cultural pressures of the moment, questioning whether their sudden intense opposition is motivated by genuine conviction or whether they're simply following the latest media trend. In Rogan's view, The View's current stance is more about what's popular right now rather than standing firm on any ideological grounds. He challenges the host's selective outrage, pointing out that Trump's core beliefs haven't dramatically changed over time. What's changed is the media narrative surrounding him, and that's been enough to fuel a complete reversal in how The View portrays him.
You got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
So, here's the actual appearance.
Donald Trump is a billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a television star. We're so happy to have you. Whenever you're on with us, we're very happy.
We love it.
But did I look?
Rogan's critique doesn't stop there. He delves into the language the hosts use, particularly in their discussions about social justice and woke culture. Whoopi Goldberg has made statements about how The View has never been asleep to the struggles of marginalized groups, emphasizing that these communities don't want to be spoken down to. Rogan takes issue with this rhetoric, calling it out as performative and hypocritical, especially when you consider how much The View once celebrated Trump before he entered politics. According to Rogan, this sudden shift isn't about a true commitment to progressive values. It's just about riding the wave of the current political climate.
If you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth.
I don't think Sonny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it, and it's nothing.
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah,
there's nothing
Rogan's
there.
argument gets even sharper when he turns to the claims made about Trump's behavior, specifically regarding accusations that he's spoken dismissively about marginalized communities. He challenges Whoopi and Joy to provide specific examples of Trump directly demeaning groups like African Americans or LGBTQ+ individuals. Rogan argues that, in fact, Trump has shown a greater willingness to embrace inclusivity in recent years compared to past politicians. He contrasts Trump with mainstream figures like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, suggesting that these politicians are more inclined to speak down to the public, while Trump, for all his flaws, tends to avoid that approach.
It is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a rabies-infested.
This line of thinking underscores Rogan's belief that much of the criticism directed at Trump is based on assumptions or cherry-picked incidents rather than actual behavior. And this is where things get really interesting. Rogan calls on The View to invite Trump back on their show for a direct, unfiltered debate. If the hosts truly oppose Trump's views, Rogan argues, they should have no problem confronting him face-to-face. He suggests that a public debate could allow Trump to defend himself on a prominent platform, potentially reshaping the public's perception of him in a positive light. Rogan thinks, however, that the hosts won't take this step because they fear the risk. A public confrontation with Trump could actually end up bolstering his image rather than damaging it. The hosts may be reluctant to give him that platform. After all, a one-on-one debate with Trump would not only allow him to speak his truth, but also give him the opportunity to directly challenge the narrative that The View has been pushing for years.
Like Barbara, she said be polite to guests no matter what.
Yes.
And for the most part, I got through. I did it like I do now. But here's where they really messed up. Watch.
They're talking about you as such a favorable light.
Honey, Joe, I think you missed this part. Take a look.
I want him to show his birth certificate. There's something on
Okay,
that
wait,
birth
no, I
certificate that he doesn't like.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that's a terrible
That
thing
is
to
just
do.
the
Whoopi, I'm
worst
telling
thing.
you.
He was
You-
3 pounds and
Donnie, I love you. I'm telling
I love
you.
you too. I think that's the biggest pile of dog mess I've heard in ages.
Rogan also takes this opportunity to weigh in on the state of cancel culture, which he finds increasingly ironic and hypocritical. He notes how figures like Trump, who were once celebrated by many, are now quickly discarded and canceled simply because they no longer align with progressive or mainstream viewpoints. Rogan suggests that the backlash against Trump is not rooted in genuine ideological differences, but rather in the desire to fit in with what's currently popular. That, in his view, is what makes cancel culture so superficial. Public figures who stray too far from the narrative are swiftly condemned, while others who play by the rules are celebrated, even when their views are less aligned with what Rogan sees as the truth.
Show has allowed all kinds of people to come on. People we agree with, people we don't agree with. I've not been a fan of this man's. I don't like how he talks to us. I don't like how he talks to the nation. So I have not really had much to say until he started running for president. Then I could say everything I needed to say. My face said everything else.
Rogan's analysis takes aim at the commercialization of politics and media, specifically the idea that The View and other mainstream outlets have become platforms for virtue signaling rather than honest discourse. He argues that hosts like Whoopi Goldberg now criticize Trump less out of sincere disagreement and more because doing so is good for ratings, good for publicity, and good for staying relevant in an ever-changing media landscape. To Rogan, this trend reveals how the media landscape has become more about maintaining a narrative and less about actually engaging in real, thoughtful debate.
You can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean
Rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing?
The most shocking part of Rogan's argument, though, might be his suggestion that public figures, including the hosts, should be held accountable for their role in shaping public opinion. He believes that The View and other media outlets have a responsibility not just to entertain, but to avoid spreading misinformation or making broad generalizations about public figures without solid evidence. Rogan pushes back against the idea that simply because someone is a public figure, it's fair game to attack them or smear them for the sake of sensationalism. He questions whether the hosts of The View are truly committed to fighting for the causes they claim to champion, or whether they're just playing a part to stay in the public's good graces. As Rogan points out, if you truly stand by your values, you should be willing to face your opponents head-on. That's why he's calling on The View to invite Trump back for an open conversation. However, he's skeptical that they'll take that step, as he believes